Let me start with one fact, just one, and I want you to sit with it before I explain anything else. America's Secretary of Defense said 4 words, "We will shoot to destroy," and Iran's Joint Military Command said 6 words in the same window. Hands are on the trigger. Those 10 words are the most dangerous 10 words spoken in this conflict. Not because of what they threaten. Both sides have been threatening each other for 60 days because of what they do not say. The Secretary of Defense did not say we will shoot if Iran attacks. He said shoot to destroy. No condition. Iran did not say we will pull if the blockade continues. It said slightest mistake, no condition. Both sides removed their conditions on the same day. Both sides said we do not need you to do anything specific. We are ready now. Here is what I want you to pay attention to, because this is the part the coverage is treating as 2 separate stories. The Pentagon statement as American military posture, Iran's statement as Iranian rhetoric. And I want to argue they are not 2 stories. They are one question. And the question is not whether either side means it. The question is why China, the country that built the system keeping Iran economically alive, the country whose tankers are transiting Hormuz right now, the country that has more leverage over Iran's decision-making than any other actor on earth, has looked at both statements and told neither side to stop. China has not told America to lower its rules of engagement. China has not told Iran to name a condition. China has said nothing. And China's silence about 10 words that could start a war is the story both statements are pointing at. Not the words, the silence around them. Here is the question that needs answering. America's defense secretary has publicly ordered his forces to shoot to destroy. Iran's military command has publicly placed hands on the trigger with no exit condition. The 60-day legal war clock expired today. Central Command has prepared 3 strike options, including a special forces plan to seize Iran's uranium by force. Gas prices are at $430, and China has said nothing about any of it. What is the structural foundation of that silence? One word, China. Not China as a diplomatic actor choosing neutrality, China as the economic architecture that makes both sides' trigger positions sustainable. Simultaneously, America can sustain the shoot to destroy order because its economy absorbs $430 gas. Iran can sustain the hands-on trigger posture with no exit condition because its oil revenue flows at 1.71 million barrels per day through China's dark fleet. Both triggers are loaded. Both are affordable. And the country that keeps both affordable has said nothing about either. I call it the confidence ladder. And once you understand why both sides climb to the same rung on the same day, you will understand why China's silence is not neutrality. It is the most precisely calculated position available to the country that profits from both triggers staying loaded without either firing. Start with the Pentagon statement because I think it has been underreported in a very specific way. The coverage treated it as a military posture announcement. America is tough. America will use force. America is serious about Hormuz. All of that is true. But the specific phrase shoot to destroy is doing something more precise than signaling toughness. It is changing the rules of engagement publicly. Before the Secretary's statement, the standing question about American forces at Hormuz was, will they use lethal force against Iranian vessels? The answer was always implied, but never stated this explicitly at the Secretary of Defense level. He made it explicit, shoot to destroy. That statement is a public authorization delivered to both American forces and to Iran simultaneously that lethal force is not just permitted but expected. That public authorization matters for a reason the coverage is not naming. It removes American commander discretion in the field. When a Secretary of Defense says shoot to destroy on camera, he has publicly narrowed the space for any individual American commander to exercise restraint in an ambiguous encounter. If an Iranian fast boat approaches an American vessel at Hormuz after this statement, and the American commander chooses not to shoot, that commander is now in direct tension with the public guidance of his civilian boss. The statement did not just signal American intent to Iran. It constrained American commanders' options in ways that make a mistake, not a deliberate decision, an operational mistake, more likely to become lethal. Here is what Iran heard. Iran heard that America has publicly authorized lethal force at the level of its most senior military official. But Iran also heard something else. Iran heard that America made that statement not before deploying additional forces, not before announcing a naval surge, not before any new capability arrived in the Gulf. America made the statement from the exact same position it was already in. 3 carrier groups, the same blockade, the same strike aircraft, the same readiness posture that has been in place for 60 days. The secretary said shoot to destroy from a static military position. Iran's Revolutionary Guard heard that a country that announces lethal force without deploying new capability is a country using words where it previously used weapons. Iran has been watching that pattern build for 60 days. It has a specific name on the confidence ladder, and here is the specific risk nobody is naming alongside Central Command's 3 prepared options. Central Command has a plan for a short and powerful wave of infrastructure strikes. Central Command has a plan to take Hormuz with ground forces. Central Command has a plan to seize Iran's uranium by special forces. All 3 of those options require American forces to be in positions where operational mistakes are possible. Ground forces entering Hormuz can make mistakes. Special forces approaching underground uranium storage can make mistakes. Short and powerful strike waves can misidentify targets in a complex urban and underground environment. Iran has just said any mistake by American forces will be met with full force. Central Command has just told the White House 3 options are ready that require American forces in exactly the positions where mistakes can happen. The gap between those 2 facts is the most alarming space in this conflict, and it was created in the same 24 hours. Now, Iran's hands-on trigger statement and why the missing condition is the most alarming part. Every military warning in this conflict before this one has had an implicit off switch. America will escalate if Iran attacks Gulf states. Iran will respond if America resumes bombing. Both sides have been managing a ceasefire through conditioned threats. I will do X if you do Y. The condition is what keeps a ceasefire functional. It tells the other side what not to do. Iran's hands-on trigger statement named no condition. It did not say we will respond if the blockade continues. It did not say we will act if negotiations fail by a specific date. It said slightest mistake, any mistake. The smallest error by any American asset in the Gulf or the Strait is the trigger condition. Not a policy choice, not a deliberate provocation, a mistake. The most alarmingly low threshold Iran has ever publicly set. And here is why that matters. Alongside Central Command's strike plans, the command has prepared a short and powerful wave of strikes targeting infrastructure. It has prepared an option to take Hormuz by ground forces. It has prepared a special forces option to seize Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium. 3 options, all of which involve American forces operating in or near Iranian-held positions. And Iran has just said any mistake by American forces will be met with full force. The specific risk is this. Central Command's options require American forces to be in positions where a mistake is possible. Ground forces taking Hormuz can make mistakes. Special forces approaching uranium storage can make mistakes. Short and powerful strike waves can misidentify targets. Iran has just said any mistake is the trigger. Central Command just told the White House those options are ready. The gap between those 2 facts is the most alarming space in this conflict. China has not said a word about closing that gap. Now, what China's silence tells you about both statements. China has 26 diplomatic calls from its foreign minister to Iran's foreign minister on record throughout this conflict. China has a 20-year strategic partnership with Iran. China is the buyer of 1.71 million barrels of Iranian crude per day. China has vetoed United Nations resolutions on Hormuz. China is the country whose dark fleet keeps Iran economically functional during the blockade. China has more leverage over Iran's decision-making than any other country on Earth, including Russia. When the Pentagon says shoot to destroy, China can call Tehran and say Iran must not give America a pretext. When Iran says hands on the trigger with no condition, China can call and say naming no exit condition is a path to a mistake that triggers the Pentagon's order. China has the channel. China has the leverage. China has the relationship. China said nothing. Now consider what China said or did not say about the Pentagon statement. The United States Secretary of Defense has publicly declared that American forces will shoot to destroy Iranian vessels at a waterway through which China's tankers are transiting. 20% of China's oil supply moves through or near Hormuz. China's dark fleet tankers are in that water right now. An order to shoot to destroy Iranian vessels at Hormuz is an order that operates in the same water where China's shadow tankers are moving Iranian crude. China's tankers are not Iranian naval vessels, but they are in the same geography, and China said nothing about the Pentagon's order. That silence is the most precise signal China can give. A country genuinely alarmed by a shoot-to-destroy order in the waters its tankers are transiting would say something. At minimum, China would issue a diplomatic note. At minimum, China's foreign ministry would express concern. China said nothing. China's calculation is that the Secretary's order does not threaten China's tankers because China's tankers operate in an arrangement Iran understands. Iran allows China's dark fleet through because China's oil purchases are the economic foundation of Iran's endurance. The shoot to destroy order and China's dark fleet are operating in the same water, under a tacit arrangement neither side has publicly named. And China's silence confirms that China is confident the arrangement holds even under the Pentagon's order. Now consider what China gains from both statements. Every day that both sides are at the top of their confidence ladders without pulling is a day China's dark fleet moves another 1.71 million barrels at current oil prices above 106 per barrel. That is 181 million per day in Iranian crude flowing to Chinese refineries. At the same time, China's 1.22 billion barrel strategic reserve built before this war at prices well below current market appreciates in value. America's military budget consumes another $300 million per day, maintaining 3 carrier groups and the blockade infrastructure. China spends nothing on this war militarily. China earns from it commercially. The arrangement where both sides say their most alarming statements and neither pulls is the arrangement most financially beneficial for China. China's silence about both statements is China confirming that the arrangement should continue. Now the confidence ladder and why both statements represent the same rung. I described the confidence ladder in the context of Iran's confidence escalation. But the ladder has 2 sides. Iran is climbing one side. America is climbing the other. And they are meeting at the top. Iran's side of the ladder. Iran closed Hormuz. America could not fully reopen it. Iran gave China, Russia, India, Iraq, Pakistan passage while blocking Western ships. America did not confront China about it. Iran accepted a ceasefire, then immediately resumed restricting ships. America did not resume bombing. Iran sent its foreign minister to Islamabad, stayed within inches of a deal, then walked away. America did not collapse the talks. Iran rebuilt missiles and drones during the ceasefire. A major American news network confirmed it. America has not named a consequence. Each of those steps is a rung. Iran is at the top of its side of the ladder. America's side of the ladder. America launched the blockade. Iran did not immediately retaliate. America turned back 38 ships. Iran did not call it a ceasefire violation that triggered full response. America deployed strike options. Iran did not preemptively strike. America's 60-day legal clock expired without Congress authorizing the war. The Pentagon argued the ceasefire nullifies the deadline. No consequence for that either. Each of those steps is a rung. America is also at the top of its side of the ladder. When both sides are at the top of their respective confidence ladders simultaneously, when both have said their most extreme public statements, when both have placed their hands on their respective triggers, the next rung requires one of them to actually pull. And the country that could tell both sides to step back down has said nothing. That country is China. And China's silence at the top of the ladder is not indifference. It is the most precise positioning available to a country that profits from both sides staying at the top without pulling. Let me steelman the argument that both statements are normal military posturing that changes nothing strategically. The optimistic reading is that the shoot to destroy statement is the escalation rhetoric America uses when it is trying to signal seriousness without acting. America has been signaling seriousness for 60 days. The signals have not produced a decisive confrontation. Iran knows American forces have always had shoot to destroy authority and rules of engagement. The Secretary said publicly what has always been true operationally. The novelty is the public statement, not the underlying order. On Iran's hands-on trigger statement, the Steelman argues that Iran has been issuing unconditioned warnings throughout this conflict and has not acted on them. The warning without a condition is Iran's standard operating posture when it wants to project strength without constraining its own diplomatic flexibility. If Iran named a condition, we will act if negotiations fail. By May 7th, Iran has committed to action on a specific date. By naming no condition, Iran preserves maximum flexibility. The most alarming reading, any mistake triggers full force, is actually Iran giving itself maximum diplomatic room because any response can be framed as a response to a mistake. On Central Command's strike plans, the Steelman argues that planning is not deciding. Central Command always has strike plans ready. The fact that specific options were briefed to the President does not mean he chose any of them. The President has consistently preferred the blockade over resumed bombing. Sources said he wants a deal, not kinetic action. The briefing is pressure maintenance, showing Iran that options exist, not a decision to use them. All of that is coherent. The Secretary's statement may be public confirmation of existing authority. Iran's warning may be strategic ambiguity rather than genuine unconditioned threat. Central Command's plans may never be executed, but here is what the Steelman cannot account for. Iran rebuilt its missiles and drones during the ceasefire. A major American news network reported this from U.S. officials, citing satellite imagery. Iran is using the ceasefire to rebuild the capability the Pentagon's forces degraded over 60 days of bombing. A country that is genuinely looking for a diplomatic exit uses the ceasefire to negotiate. A country that is preparing for the next military phase uses the ceasefire to rebuild. Iran is doing the second thing, and the shoot-to-destroy statement is the American response to a country that is rebuilding rather than negotiating. Both statements arrived on the same day because both sides have assessed the same thing. The ceasefire is not producing a settlement, and the next phase requires readiness. China has watched both sides reach that assessment simultaneously and said nothing. That silence is not neutrality. It is China confirming that the next phase serves China's position. Watch three things as both statements run. The first is whether any Iranian vessel or fast boat attempts a Hormuz crossing in the next 72 hours in a way that tests the Pentagon order. The Revolutionary Guard's hands-on trigger statement and the shoot-to-destroy statement create a specific risk. A commander on either side who reads the situation as requiring action. If any Iranian vessel makes an ambiguous movement near an American asset in the coming days, not a deliberate attack, an ambiguous movement, the Secretary's statement means American commanders will interpret that movement within a shoot-to-destroy framework. Watch Central Command's daily operational reports for any reference to incidents involving Iranian vessels. An incident report, however minor, in the 72 hours after both statements means the latter is being tested. The specific geography to watch is the 2-mile-wide navigable channel in the narrowest part of Hormuz, the area within Iranian and Omani territorial waters, where Iranian fast boats operate closest to the shipping lanes. That is where a mistake is most likely. That is where the Pentagon's order and Iran's trigger overlap. The second is whether Central Command's three options leak further or get denied. A recent news report named three specific plans: short and powerful strikes on infrastructure, ground forces to take Hormuz, special forces to seize Iran's uranium. That leak did not come from nowhere. Leaks of operational options at that level of specificity are either intentional pressure, America wants Iran to know the options exist, or a breakdown in operational security. Watch whether any of the three options is confirmed by a second independent source in the coming days. Specifically, watch for any Israeli government confirmation of the uranium seizure option. Israel has been coordinating with Central Command throughout this conflict and would need to be informed of any special forces operation near Iranian nuclear storage. An Israeli confirmation or denial tells you how real the uranium seizure option is. A second American source confirmation tells you the options are being deliberately surfaced as pressure rather than being held closely as operational planning. The third is whether China contacts either side directly after both statements. China's foreign minister has made 26 calls to Iran's foreign minister throughout this conflict. He has met with the American Secretary of State. China has the channels. Watch whether any Chinese foreign ministry statement in the next 48 hours references either the Pentagon statement or Iran's trigger statement specifically. A Chinese statement that names either one, however diplomatically, is China deciding that its silence has become more costly than a minimal position. If China stays silent about both statements, China has assessed that both statements are sustainable within the current architecture, that the Pentagon will shoot to destroy only if Iran makes a mistake, and Iran will pull only if American forces make a mistake. And China's dark fleet is neither Iranian naval nor an American target. The architecture holds, the ladder stays topped. Nobody pulls first. And China keeps buying Iranian crude at 1.71 million barrels per day through the same system. That is the outcome China's silence is preserving. The day China breaks that silence about either statement is the day China has calculated the architecture is no longer holding. Push back on this. If you see it differently, read the Secretary's exact words. Shoot to destroy, not shoot to warn. Read Iran's exact words. Slightest mistake, full force, no condition named. Read Central Command's three options. Read the confirmed report that Iran is rebuilding during the ceasefire. And then ask the question the coverage is not asking. Two sides have placed their hands on their triggers. Simultaneously, the country that could tell both to step back has said nothing, What does China know about both trigger positions that makes its silence the most precise response available? China already has an answer to that question. And the answer is not that either side is bluffing.